Every once in a while, a movie comes along that ends up surprising you by being way better than it has any right to be. Whether it's Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon fighting giant underground worms in Tremors, or Nick Cage going full Nick Cage in a psychedelic acid-fueled revenge trip in Mandy, or in this case, Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds in a bizarre mashup of The Matrix and the Lego Movie set in the world of Grand Theft Auto. Free Guy is a film that I went into with pretty low expectations, if I'm honest. The trailers made it seem like the kind of lowbrow, low-effort comedy that tries to milk the elusive teat of online gaming culture without really understanding it, and throws in some pretty uninspired jokes, leaving a hyperactive Reynolds to carry it over the line with
maximum effort.
But what I got in reality was a funny, good-natured and refreshingly inventive comedy with a likeable cast and some surprisingly poignant and heartfelt moments towards the end. I mean, it's not going to be winning any Oscars, and I'd be lying if I said all of the jokes landed, but for the most part it was a movie I was able to just sit back and enjoy, and I came out of the theatre feeling like I'd been pretty well entertained for a couple of hours. And that's a fucking rarity these days, believe me. Free Guy revolves around the online virtual world of Free City, a GTA 5 kind of deal where players can fight each other, complete missions, and generally cause mayhem and destruction without considering the consequences. But the one thing they never bother to consider is the NPCs who populate Free City, basically just simple computer programs who go through the same routine every day with no awareness of their true nature. None of them except Guy, a bank teller whose life revolves around going to work each day and getting robbed by human players. But that all begins to change when he randomly encounters Millie, a player from the real world who he instantly falls in love with and tries to talk to. It doesn't work out too well for him though. But this tiny change in his behaviour starts a gradual cascade of decisions that causes him to become self-aware, break his programming, and ultimately see the world around him for what it really is. Mistaking Guy for a fellow player, Millie tells him that he needs to level up if he expects to survive in Free City. But because he's not willing to kill or harm other people, he does it instead by helping them, completing missions without shedding blood, and generally being, well, a really nice guy. Something which is pretty much unknown in a world where players are encouraged to act without consequences, and as a result, Guy quickly becomes a kind of internet celebrity, with people speculating about who he might really be. Millie, on the other hand, begins to suspect there's more to Guy than meets the eye, and that it might have something to do with her true mission inside Free City. See, she's one of a pair of software engineers who originally designed Free City to be something much more wholesome and peaceful, a world where players could watch intelligent characters slowly evolve and develop over time. Unfortunately, their work was stolen by Antoine, a greedy businessman who used their basic code to create Free City instead. Since then, she's been on a quest to expose his shady dealings to the world, and comes to realise that Guy could well be the proof that she needs. Millie wants to protect him, Antoine wants to destroy him, and the whole story culminates in a race against time to get to the truth before Free City is taken offline permanently. Like I said at the start, the concept of an online virtual world has been used plenty of times before in modern storytelling. The Matrix did it, Ready Player One did it, shit man, even Westworld tapped into a similar idea of NPCs gradually becoming aware of their true nature. But I think Free Guy does a good job of balancing serious ideas like this against the backdrop of light-hearted humour. It never takes its ideas too seriously or strays too far into the moral dilemma of creating artificial intelligence purely for human entertainment. Clearly, there's been an attempt to appeal to younger audiences with the humour here. Some of the in-jokes really depend on you having a working knowledge of online gaming, but it never really becomes off-putting. Well, except when they bring in real-life YouTubers and Twitch streamers for cameo appearances. They fit into the movie about as naturally as Movie Bob at an ultramarathon, and I can only imagine that non-gamers must have been left scratching their heads, wondering what the fuck they were looking at. Guy himself is generally likeable and funny enough to keep you on his side. I mean, yeah, it's clearly just Ryan Reynolds playing his most famous role of all, Ryan Reynolds, and how much you empathise with Guy is going to depend on how much Ryan Reynolds you can tolerate. Personally, I thought he was able to keep it fairly dialed back here, and it helps that the movie actually gives him an understandable arc to work through. I couldn't help but enjoy it as he starts to work his way up the rankings. I genuinely felt bad for the guy once he finally realises what he is, and I found myself cheering him on as he makes his final bid for freedom. The rest of the cast also does a solid job. Jodie Comer and Joe Keery are both likeable as Millie and Walter, the two programmers and former friends who reluctantly start working with each other again. Although I'm pretty sure they worked in the fake dialogue function for no other reason than to showcase Comer's ability to do pretty much any accent on earth. Seriously, you'd never fucking guess this girl was from Liverpool.
I've always imitated adverts and stuff with me dad.
Taika Waititi plays an arrogant, narcissistic arsehole about as well as you'd expect. I mean, play to your strengths, I suppose. Oh, and I just have to say, dude was a work of fucking genius who pretty much stole the show for me. A half-finished program sent into the game to hunt Guy down and destroy him. He's got some of the best lines precisely because he's so dumb and incomplete. It's just a shame he doesn't show up until the last 10 minutes, leaving him feeling like an underused resource. I really wanted more of this guy. What I also liked about Free Guy is that there's pretty much no pandering or agendas involved. The only subtext here is one of self-discovery, breaking free of the constraints and expectations of society, and taking the more challenging road to becoming your own person, but the film never prioritizes or demonizes one group or demographic over another. It's a wholesome, inspiring, universal kind of message that pretty much everyone can get behind. Millie is never presented as the unrecognized brains behind her partnership with Walter, and she doesn't spend the movie insulting and berating every man in sight. Guy's story and character arc is very much the core of the film, and as much as he struggles and fails at first, the script never tries to undermine its own protagonist. Holy shit, it's like the writers have realised that tackling universal ideas without resorting to petty tribalistic bullshit might just make general audiences more inclined to watch their film. Give them a gold star, everyone. The only part that felt slightly jarring was a weird joke about white privilege that came out of nowhere and landed about as well as a plane with no undercarriage. But aside from that, there's no undertone of lingering hatred and bitterness like you get in so many films these days, and as a result, well, Free Guy ended up being a fun, baggage-free movie that does exactly what it sets out to do: entertain people. Wow, who would have thought that such a thing was possible in 2021? Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.